Hey guys, thanks for joining us again. I've got GamerTron back here because we love talking to each other so much. Why not do it again? And
Exactly, no homo vote.
well, that's arguable. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Whatever. Point being that we are here to talk about Dying Light, which is a game that had a lot of hype around it, was highly anticipated, it made a huge splash, is still played by a lot of people, but no one really talks about it that much anymore. And I think it's very fair that we need to shed some light back on something that is not dying. I've got GamerTron back on here to do that. It's something that I didn't get on the console when it came out. It was something I was waiting to get into, and then timing kind of struck where I got a PC, and when I initially got the PC, the video card that it had couldn't really handle Dying Light, the settings I wanted to play it at, and I was able to get a copy of the game for next to nothing. It was actually a donation from a fan of the channel, so thank you for donating Dying Light to the channel. Thank you very much.
You are lucky.
But I couldn't. I couldn't play it properly, so it prompted me to get a better video card, which I immediately did, and that actually made everything about my channel better. I was able to do so much more, so it was a really happy accident in that respect. And it was the game that I experimented with my new streaming technology the most. It was a game that really encouraged me to have fun with the format, and then on top of it have a great game to do it with. We've all played shooters, we've all played first person games, we've all played open world games, we've all played zombie games, for crying out loud. So I was like, what can this game offer me that I haven't had before? And although, to be fair, it's not wholly original, it certainly takes some of the best elements of all those things and comes together in a cohesive thing that you just haven't seen yet. At least not as well executed as this. I mean, come on. Drop kicking zombies, please.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. And on that note, we really have to can there be one video where I don't screw up my English? Anyways, we really have to congratulate the developer of the game, Techland, for really striving and innovating from their previous sequel, Dead Island. Words, English, I swear I can speak it. They went from Dead Island to Dying Light, and wow, did they make some leaps. They made real leaps from both games. Now, Dead Island was not a bad game by any means, but it was really rough around the edges. There were a lot of bugs and glitches. Yes, some were patched, some were not. The combat was kind of clunky. There was a lot of things about Dead Island that were good, but at the same time kind of unappealing. Then Dying Light comes around, and they really kind of sort of pull a 180. The game is surprisingly polished. I think I've only encountered like maybe one or two bugs and glitches throughout my entire multiple hour playthrough of Dying Light. Just very well polished game.
I've never had a crash to Windows. Never had a crash, not once. And for me running it on what I would consider to be a mid-range machine at best, that's saying something. Typically in a game like this, you're going to see crashes. I've seen enough Angry Joe
Skyrim,
reviews.
Fallout.
Right, exactly. Her. But that in and of itself, like that, this game made me enthusiastic about the concept of splitting my time between gaming on the PC and the console, which is not an easy sell, okay? I very much like the plug-and-play method of console gaming. It's easier for me. There are some games I will always play on PC, but by and large, if I can play it, I just assume play it on the console most of the time. But that is slowly changing, due in no small part to the experience I had with Dying Light. The game just works, and it's a lot of fun.
Exactly, right there. The game is a lot of fun. A lot of people lose concept, well, is the game good? That doesn't matter. Is the game fun? Dying Light is a ton of fun, an absolute ton of fun. Yes, we fought zombies before. Like, Jim, before playing Dying Light, how many zombie games had you played?
Too many to count.
Yeah, I think same here. I mean, there's Left 4 Dead, there's Dead Rising, there's DayZ, there's State of Decay.
Call of Duty, for crying out loud.
Oh, yes, Call of Duty Zombies mode, yes.
Yeah.
Like, zombies are everywhere, and let's not forget the amount of indie games that have zombies in them.
And
So
plants.
zombies have. Oh yes. Oh, Plants vs Zombies. I forgot about that one. So yeah, zombies are everywhere. So
They're kind of a
it's
thing.
really hard. It's really hard to feel something refreshing from something having to do with zombies. And Dying Light really pulled it off. Yes, we've seen regular zombies, fast zombies, special mutated kind of zombies, but with Dying Light, first off, I have to say the actual design of these zombies is really well done. Like they look like they're in decay, like they actually are corpses. And the special zombies, they look more alien than human than anything.
Mm.
I mean, the volatiles. Oh god, we'll talk about the volatiles in nighttime when we get to it. But the design, the overall design of the zombies is excellent. They're also really well animated. You can tell they got some motion capture work in there. They are so well animated. They don't move entirely lifelike, but when they're chasing after you, when they're grabbing you, when they're attacking you, you're in the moment, and it is intense.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something where we, like you said, we've seen zombies before. We've seen the mutant zombies. We've seen, and the types of zombies aren't, again, they're not unique. They're very Left 4 Dead in all the best possible ways. But they like it's like Left 4 Dead 3.0, Dead Island, upgrades, and it's something where you expect something when you see a zombie. When you get a boss zombie, you want to be scared. You want to be like, oh shit, and you get that here. What I like,
Yeah, that's what we get with the Demolisher. Have you encountered the Demolisher zombie
oh
yet?
god, yes,
That's like the Hulk. It's basically the Hulk
yep.
with spikes and riot armor.
And the thing is, for me, is that even the what I would call like the base class worker drone zombie,
Zombie.
they're still scary because of the way in which how scarce your supplies are and whatnot. So if you're not careful, just like you would be in real life, like once you get used to dealing with zombies, you're used to dealing with zombies. But there's always going to be a situation where the zombies you encounter can overpower you, and it's scary or frustrating or both.
Yeah, it just I kill single zombies in the game all the time. You find a straggler. It's they're easy. It's no problem. But it's the groups. Even the most basic zombie enemy, they're terrifying when they're in groups because you're like, oh shoot, I get caught in the middle of that, I'm dead. No talking about it. No
Right.
dealing about it. I'm dead if I get into that group.
Absolutely, and it's just it's again, we're not talking about something that's never been done. It's just done right. Same thing I could say for the weapon system, where
Oh yes, I love the weapons. I was really concerned, like a first-person game that focuses mostly on melee, because melee combat is usually something saved for the third person. It's usually done more in third person,
Right.
like Prince of Persia, Shadow of Mordor, that sort of thing. But then comes Dying Light, and with a heavy emphasis on first-person melee. Now, in my opinion, the Dead Island first-person melee, like it was really clunky, and honestly, I didn't find it too satisfying. I didn't find the Dead Island gameplay too fun. Dying Light, I freaking love it. It's smooth. There's the right amount of challenge. There's the right amount of simplicity. You're able to get into it. It's not. It's one of those concepts where easy to get into, hard to master. You got to learn when to dodge. You learn when to use heavy attacks, when to use light attacks, when to use your kick and drop kick.
yeah, it's and this is weird kind of strategy of because it isn't just about what attack do I use, because some games you're kind of OP where it's like, watch this. You don't really have that option because some of the attacks you do debilitate you for short periods of time. And to where you've, again, like you said, you've got to make that choice. How do I approach this situation? I think that's why the game's successful. Like we've talked about Destiny in the past, where with that it's a matter of how do you want to approach this, and you have the option, then you just go. And whether or not you're OP really kind of depends upon your skill and rep level. In Dying Light, it's more about making sure you're making the right choice for the situation, because if you don't, that might be your ass. And
Exactly. Now, I'm max level in Dying Light. I have 200 health. I have max health. I got all my max skills, all that stuff, and it is still intimidating going up against a horde of zombies. Granted, there's kind of a risk-reward thing, like you bring in a heavy weapon. You could slaughter that small horde and have a ton of fun doing it, but at the same time, if you're not careful, if you don't watch your stamina, you're toast.
right, and that's why I've actually almost completely avoided heavy weapons. Anything two-handed, I just avoid it because I'm just like, nope, nope, nope. Because
Well, if you do try two-handed weapons, I really, really have to recommend the fire axe, the fireman's axe, and what was that other two-handed weapon? I forget what it was, but yeah, the fireman's axe get a legendary high tier like orange or purple fireman's axe. That's a ton of fun.
yeah, without a doubt, the ones I've tried are great. I know my playstyle. I like to get in the thick of it, and two-handed weapons.
I'm guessing you're a dagger or machete kind of guy.
I do like the cutting weapons, but I'm a very big fan of the heavy, like a heavy cutting.
Oh,
weapon.
the blunt weapons. You're into hammers and the maces.
I like making heads explode, my friend. I just wait for that. I just wait for that. I just and I just like watching the blood come out because the physics in the game are so well done.
Yeah, but the ragdolls, like physics are really good, but the ragdolls do some funny things from time to time.
Dude, I want there to be ability to turn on the April 1st perk. I want that.
Oh, why was that temporary? I get it was special for April Fools, but why is that not an option built into the game?
Like, let me have that after I finish the story. Let me turn it on, just for fun.
Better yet, let it be an unlockable for getting an achievement or something like that.
Sure, because it made the now for one thing it did. I made it a point. I treated it like an XP booster, in as much as I knew it was temporary, so I just played the shit out of it for as long as I could handle it, because I knew I would get further in the story because it was frankly much easier, and to watch them go fly, a little Doppler effect.
Yeah, that is a really good thing about Dying Light. Personally, I find it finds that balance between the serious dark drama when it comes to zombies and the satirical, funny, over-the-top version when it comes to zombies. It finds that balance. With the story, with the main campaign story, it's very dark, very serious, very to the point, with a few jokes, sprinkled. That's the word I was looking for. Sprinkled in between. But then you go play the side quests, and then you mess around with the zombies with special weapons, and then you find the serious, lighthearted side, and there's real fun in that. I really like the balance. If I want a serious zombie game, I can play Dying Light. If I want a silly zombie game, I can play Dying Light.
Exactly. As with any open world game, you're going to have those choices. And I think that's where Dying Light shines, is that even though it's got a pretty, I wouldn't call it linear, but the story missions can be approached in a linear way. You can go mission to mission to mission to mission to mission, never touch a side quest, and complete the game. I do find that, as with many of these games, the side quests do tend to enrich the experience more so than they take away.
Very
from it.
much so, and they really went over the top with the side quest. You know what? Let's make these side quests as memorable and as silly and goofy as possible. And even some of the side quests are really kind of scary and dark. Like, I won't spoil it for you, but there was this one side quest that literally had my hands shaking on my keyboard and mouse. Like, I was genuinely scared, and I wasn't scared of the zombies. Now, I'm not going to spoil what it was, but you'll know when you get to the second area in Dying Light, the city. You'll find this side quest, and it is a tense one.
Gotcha. It's something that I need to pick back up, and with the impending Destiny DLC that's coming, it's going to be hard to cut my time. I have to mention Destiny every time I sit on a mic. It's a contractual obligation. Just ask any of my co-hosts at my other podcast.
Dude, I talk about Warframe and Titanfall and Evolve every chance I get, so don't worry. We talk about the games we love.
Speaking of Titanfall, I have never played it with anybody else. We need to play Titanfall sometime.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, now that we brought up Titanfall has awesome parkour and movement. And Dying Light has also awesome parkour and movement. So it all ties together.
Yeah, and I would argue that the parkour in Dying Light is far superior to Titanfall.
Oh, now that's debatable because I like the cartoonish nature of Titanfall's parkour, but Dying Light's parkour, it's the most realistic parkour I've ever seen, I've ever played in a game.
Yeah,
I know this is going to be heresy to a lot of people, but I think it's even better than Mirror's Edge.
which is what I was going to get at. I think that honestly, Mirror's Edge has got to. Well, let's put it this way: no Mirror's Edge, there's no Dying Light because they proved it could be done first. And
True.
and to be fair, there's a second one of that series coming out. Dice has their work cut out for them, and I hope they learn from the lessons because the visceral feedback that you get in the parkour from Dying Light isn't from just the running and jumping. It's for when you're grabbing and when you miss. And from a controller perspective, this is important. 'Cause I know hearsay on PC, I still use the controller.
It's okay, dude. I know. That's the beautiful thing about PC gaming. You can use a mouse, keyboard, or a controller. Can't do that on console. You have to use a controller.
That although the PS4 does support keyboard and mouse, none for games yet, but they're working on it. So with the controller, there's a visceral feedback to when you miss and you just grab onto something. Reminds me so much of the original Prince of Persia on PC when you're like, oh, I almost made it, you know.
Oh yeah, those moments, and those moments are in Dying Light, but in the first person. And I love the first person animations. I love first person games where you can see your hands and your legs. More games need to do that, and Dying Light does that, and that adds so much to the experience. There are moments in Dying Light where I forget I'm playing a game, where I'm just running around building to building, collecting supplies, avoiding zombies, engaging zombies, kicking, running, collecting. It's a really great game that can really be a great time waster.
And it's something that I remember specifically while before release, they were talking about building in some of the API for Oculus Rift in it for virtual reality support.
Oh, that would have been terrifying.
And I think they're still talking about it. I think the concern is more about not making people throw up. Because think about that game. With the problem you run into with an engine like that is the forced camera. That's what makes people throw up. So I think there's a lot of different things you could do there, and it's just one more example of okay, these guys are ready to do this. Because they tried it, and I know that they got certain aspects of it to work. So I think on a long enough timeline, we're going to see a Dying Light quality game in a virtual reality experience. So, and I will put this out there. This may be the first when that game comes out. It'll be the first game where you're required by law to wear a diaper because you just might shit your pants.
You know what? That is a very big possibility. And speaking of crapping your pants, we might as well get talk about one of the most original things about Dying Light, nighttime. So I'll let you say your piece on nighttime, and then I'll say mine. Oh God, night in Dying Light.
What a horrible night to have a curse. One of the first nighttime modes that actually work in a game, not just from a mechanics standpoint, but from it feels relevant. Like nighttime, there are some things you can only do at night. There are certain tasks you can only perform at night, and there's perks you're going to get by killing at night. There's a tonal shift that I can't even begin to fully encompass without you having experienced it yourself if you're listening and haven't played the game.
Like, Dying Light turns from a first-person action game to a first-person horror game as soon as night comes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's because of the damn volatiles. Oh, the volatiles. Oh, God. I understand why people call them necromorph ripoffs, but hey, they took the best parts of the necromorphs and put them into the volatile. They're freaking terrifying.
And as scary as the necromorphs were in Dead Space, you were still in a third person and you had that possibility of at least a warning. In Dying Light, stuff can grab you and turn you around. And when it's dark like that, and especially with headsets, I wear headphones constantly, like all day, and the sound mix in that game is so well done. Even with music playing in the background, I can hear things coming, and I'm like, whoa. Watch any of my highlights videos in Dying Light if you get a chance to go over there and check them out, where you'll see me like viscerally like frightened, which for a guy my size isn't something that normally happens. The game just really it does a great job of immersing you in that environment, and at night it's that much more immersive because you know if you do the wrong thing, you're gonna get killed. And it's a very real fear of death in that game, especially at night, because you do have such a limited amount of time to do the things you want to do. Getting around at night is so much harder. So the stakes in every possible way are higher. And I think it's one of the most compelling parts of the game, and I'm glad that they took the time to flesh it out.
Yeah, that is because in a lot of video games that have a day-night cycle, usually night just makes things harder to see. That's the gimmick of night. Things are harder to see now. In Dying Light, things really do change. You get the volatile zombies. Normal zombies become more hostile and run faster and do more damage. But also, you get double the XP. So seeing as how you're Grindhead Jim, I'm guessing grinding at night is one of the best possible ways to level up and get XP in Dying Light. Well, it is, no duh. But at the same time, it's the embodiment of risk reward.
Without a doubt, it's something that's very balance in a game of that type is so rare. True balance where you not only have the opportunity, but it's there in a fun way and it's presented to you naturally. Whereas the grind is doing one thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and then you get something out of it. You can grind in Dying Light, and the grind in Dying Light is very simple. Just avoid the side quests and the story missions and run around and kill stuff. That's a grind, sure, but if you're breaking it up with quest and story missions as you go, I think that it's a lot more rewarding. And people are like, "Well, why haven't you finished the story yet?" Because I'm busy. Like this is the first game where I finally get it. Most of my PC gaming friends, and one of them in particular, he'll do he'll level up the character by grinding and then go into the story because he wants to be OP right off the bat. And
yeah, I get that gameplay style. That's a gameplay style to have.
And he does like the collectibles and all the side stuff and then does the main story, which I understand that. I just feel like I want to blend everything together. But that's the beauty of a game like this where you have complete control over it. The one thing you don't really have control over is the shitty voice acting. But,
I wouldn't say the voice acting is crappy. I would just say it was misdirected in certain points.
Oh, sure.
Like, I get what they were going for. They were trying to make it feel like this was another culture. This was another place with the accents and whatnot. But there's a problem that comes with the accents and them constantly speaking English, because then it makes you wonder, okay, what language are they supposed to be speaking? We constantly hear them speaking English with an accent, and it sounds unnatural.
It really does, and it's something where, with everything else that you're seeing in the game is so well polished and so well executed, and you're immersed, then when you hear a bad voice like this, it takes you out of game, right, Al Capone? Like, look, I lived in Chicago. In today's day and age, if a zombie apocalypse broke out and someone knew that I lived in Chicago, the nickname I would expect is not Al Capone. I would expect the nickname, "Hey, deep dish pizza," because that's what I think everyone knows Chicago for. Hey, Al Capone. Okay, hey, pepperoni pizza cheese. Whatever. It's just you hear that, it kind of takes you out of the experience for a moment, and it's one big negatives I have is that it lacks immersion when someone's opening their yap most of the time.
I think it would have helped a lot more if they spoke another language. Like, we actually heard the language that this accent is being generated from.
At least once to give you a frame of reference, and then when they speak English, you can forgive it. But when it's just clearly a bad accent, it ruins all of my immersion.
Exactly. So, I liked the story of Dying Light. It was by no means bad. It was just nothing special. I've been through this kind of story before. I know what to expect. But I enjoyed my time with it. It was a satisfying story. I would gladly replay the campaign. Oh, that's another thing I love about Dying Light. You can replay the story missions. Thank God. I really hate it when open world video games force you to start all the way from the beginning with a new character and don't let you replay the story missions with all the stuff you've collected.
Is it New Game Plus or is it...
Here's the thing. It's New Game Plus, but you can select any of the chapters.
Oh, right
You
on.
can select replay any of the chapters. I think you just got to go to load game. I believe I should have checked that before starting up this video. You just go to load game and and there's like an option like free roam, campaign complete. But you can also select the individual chapters. You can start from the beginning or any chapter you want. You could literally replay the last mission over and over again. Like you'd get the mission pop up and hear the same dialogue, but you have all your stuff.
Which is something like, for example, when like Deus Ex Human Revolution did the director's cut, you were able to do the campaign over again with New Game Plus, which I still haven't had the opportunity to do yet.
I'm really picking up Deus Ex all over again just for New Game Plus. I mean,
I'm telling you, director's cut is worth it without going too far off. The amount of differences in the mechanics alone are worth it. New Game Plus even more so. But what I love about Dying Light that you've mentioned here is that you can pick where you start. Deus Ex, you don't have that. You just start the game over again. Same with Last of Us. Last of Us, that game is New Game Plus. The only difference is that you pick up weapons as they naturally appear in the game. However, when you pick them up, they're fully leveled. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
So it maintains the story, and I like that. But there's different ways to approach it. And for me, again, because gaming at its heart is a power fantasy. And in a power fantasy, I should be able to bring my rocket launcher to a knife fight. Fuck you. You know?
Precisely. And I think because we're getting close to 30 minutes here, let's talk about one of the best things about Dying Light just before we leave and call this a video: the crafting. Being able to craft your own custom weapons and build supplies. I think that's one of the highlights of the game for me. Just finding materials and slowly but surely making and building up my gear.
I do think that it is a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts, where the weapons themselves are consumable in as much as they eventually break, which is realistic, and I appreciate it. It does force you to...
Yeah, but that does lead to one thing. Granted, I only personally do this. I don't know if anybody else does it. But if I have a weapon that I really like a weapon that's kind of sort of become my friend in this zombie apocalypse, I won't just throw it away. Like, I'll keep it in my backpack for storage. Yes, it's broken. I can never use it again, but it will be always there, and it helped me through many a zombie-killing adventure. But that's just me. So, sorry I interrupted. Please continue.
No, not at all. I'd love to have a second backpack full of broken weapons, but when I'm on the run, I'm like, oh, you know, I just sell them back and get the money. Like, you fix it. You know? But it's just one of these things where it encourages you to explore all the different weapons the game has to offer. I am concerned at this point in the game that I'm in, and I've got over 80 hours in this game, just in running around and whatnot, because it's just, there's so much to do. And also, I'm not that good at the game. But, you know, neither here nor there. There is a distinct lack of firearms, and I don't mean the ammunition. I mean the firearms themselves. Like, let me have like a stack of freaking guns, but make the ammunition hard to find. This idea that I can't even find a gun, that's a bit much in a game like this. However, the crafting system kind of makes up for that, what I see as a kind of a detriment, because now I'm forced, and again, this is a function rather than a detriment, it forces me to get into the crafting system. It forces me to get used to the melee gameplay. It reminds me that that's what this game's focus is. And so when I do come across a firearm, it forces me to be picky. So, again, this is something where as much control as they give you, I'd love to have more, but damn, you can just make anything into anything if you have the right upgrade materials, and it's great. I particularly enjoy the throwing star system, which is really cool.
I never really got into throwing stars. Really, I'm all about finding a good melee weapon like a katana. I really love the swords in this game, the katanas, the machetes, and the axes. Looking for a good, strong melee weapon like a katana, and then just attaching electricity and fire to it.
That's a thing. I mean, and I've certainly played my share of, Shadow Warrior and stuff like that too. So it's like, I haven't gotten to the swords in Dying Light yet, so I can't wait to get my hands on one of those. What I like the throwing stars for, especially the explosive throwing stars, is the stagger aspect of it. If you stagger a larger enemy, then you can just kind of kill everything around you. And granted, maybe the fact that I'm taking so much time getting through the game and leveling up will make me that much more appreciative of the more powerful weapons once they do appear. Because right now I'm maybe a third, maybe a halfway through the story, and the weapons I'm getting are good, but they're certainly not great. And it's something where it's just reaching that level of Dying Light has this thing where it just gets just frustrating enough for me to quit, and I get away from it a couple days and I come back, and I'm almost to the point where I want to go back and pick up where I left off that game again. But it is something that, because of the way they made the game, it is something that I will potentially be able to play for a very long time to come. Very well overlooked, and if you haven't picked it up yet, by all means grab it, whether it's on console or PC, though I do recommend the PC version of the game, because it just works.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's Dying Light. Thank you for having me on the show, Jim, and thank you for letting us talk about this awesome video game. More awesome video games need to be talked about, and not just the crappy ones.
Absolutely, and that's why we're here. So, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Hit the like button, you bastards. And as always, keep on grinding. Cheers.